Hello and welcome to the September 2022 episode of the Seagull. The Seagull is the place to stay up to date on everything you need to know about the 102nd Intelligence Wing at Otis Air National Guard Base, right here from beautiful Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I'm Tim Sandlin from Public Affairs, and I will get you up to speed on what's going on here at the Wing. This month's show features an interview with Jill Garvin, the Wing Director of Psychological Health. We sit down with Jill and talk about Suicide Prevention Awareness Month and what can be done to help those around you as well as yourself. Later, we get a clip from this month's Chevrons. But first, in this month's command message, we will hear from Colonel Nicole Ivers, commander of the 102nd Mission Support Group. Colonel Ivers shares some sobering statistics in regards to suicide and shares ways that you can help your friends, family, or wingmen who might be suffering, as well as some techniques for reducing stress in your own life.
Hello, I'm Colonel Nicole Ivers, commander of the 102nd Mission Support Group, and I am honored to bring you the September 2022 Wing Command message. Today, I'd like to speak to you about suicide prevention and awareness. First, why do we focus on suicide prevention? According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, suicide is the leading cause of death in the United States. Suicide among service members, veterans, and their families is a public health and national security crisis. Suicide is a culmination of multiple factors and complex interactions, yet suicide is preventable. Every death by suicide is a tragedy and weighs heavily on the military community. For scope, consider the following. Nearly 46,000 people died by suicide in the United States in 2020. Approximately 12.2 million seriously thought about suicide, 3.2 million made a plan for suicide, and 1.2 million attempted suicide. Those are staggering numbers. That is about one death every 11 minutes. In 2020, 580 service members died by suicide. Of those, 109 were in the Air Force Reserve, or Air National Guard. If the above statistics were just one, it would be one too many. So I'd like you to do something for me. Jot this down or type it in your phone to remind you to go back to look at it later. ACE, A-C-E, Ask, Care, Escort, and 988. If you can just remember that, repeat it if you need to. If you notice a friend, a wingman, or a family member is suffering, ask them how they are. If they say great, but you aren't convinced, ask them again. Ask them what's going on and listen to what they have to say. The listening part falls under care. Care for them. Calmly listen to everything they have to say. Express concern and make sure they know they can talk to you. Finally, escort. If they are in need of help, help them find that assistance, even if it takes walking them down the hall or looking up sources of assistance on the internet and being there when they make that call. We all need support at one time or another. Be there for one another. Oh, and 988? That is the number to the Suicide Crisis Lifeline. Just as I want you to remember ACE, I want you to remember 988. Call it if you or a wingman need help. Finally, let me leave you with some ideas to help overcome tough situations that might come up in your own life. When we are stressed, it makes us feel like nothing is there to help. Having effective coping, problem solving, and communication skills can make a big difference. Seek support from healthcare providers, counselors, or a chaplain. Reach out to Jill Garvin. I personally use the Director of Psychological Health, Jill Garvin, all the time, whether it's for personal or to seek out advice to help an airman. Stay connected. Support from friends and families can improve well-being when facing stress. One of the things that we do in the Mission Support Group to stay connected with our people is our leadership team meets with small groups in the different sections at a time in the group and provide breakfast for the airmen and get to know our people. By knowing our people, we can tell when something is wrong and get ahead of any stresses and provide them the proper guidance and the help they need. Other things to do is practice relaxation, muscle relaxation, breathing exercises, meditation, stretching, yoga, prayers, listening to quiet music, or time in nature. Get good sleep. Poor or insufficient sleep has a significant negative impact on your health. Exercise regularly. Cardio and strength training can reduce stress levels and keep you mission ready. When I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I'll go for a run or a walk. It makes all the difference in relieving stress. Get involved in passions, hobbies, activities that you enjoy. For example, art can be a positive, creative way to express feelings. I enjoy boating, and there's nothing like being on the water. It's so tranquil. Also, avoid drinking too much and mixing alcohol and medications. It may seem like an easy way to decrease stress or can create additional stress and actually increase stress and problems. Take a break from the news or social media if those activities cause you stress. In closing, remember ACE model: ask, care, and escort. Be the wingman you deserve to have in your life. Remember to take care of yourself. Practice stress reduction techniques in your own life. Above and beyond all of that, keep talking and keep listening. Keep connected to your friends, your family, and your wingmen. We are all in this together. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Seagull. We've got Miss Jill Garvin, the Director of Psychological Health for the 102nd Intelligence Wing in the studio, along with Tech Sergeant Jay Whittaker from Public Affairs, and I am Tim Sandlin from Public Affairs. We'd like to spend a few minutes and talk about September, which is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And Jill, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so September is Suicide Awareness Month, and we try to do things throughout the year around prevention, not just suicide prevention, but about reducing stigma and mental health resources. But we do try to highlight some of these things in September, and we are going to be doing some things around the week around the month. We're going to do weekly walks around the track on Tuesdays. We did this last year, and it was a great way to get people out of their offices and to connect. So we're going to be doing that. And the other thing that we're starting to do here at the Wing throughout the year, but that's starting in September, is we're going to have some of our outside resources and connections coming in for monthly and biweekly visits. So, for example, we have the vet center that comes every other Monday, and Adam from our Hyannis Vet Center helps people get connected with services, and we also have Military One Source representative that comes once a month. And then starting in September, Heroes in Transition that does a lot of free events in the community, and they have done a lot for the 102nd. They're going to start doing some monthly visits as well. And they're also going to do some morale events for us. And again, just kind of have a face with a name, because we do have a lot of resources that people don't access because they don't necessarily, put a face with the name. So I think that'll be really helpful for September. And again, just really pushing out mental health resources, and the new Lifeline number has changed. Well, the Lifeline number is the same, but they've now added the 988 number. And you may think that people don't use that very often, but just in the last couple of weeks, I've had a few members share with me that they use that number to talk to somebody, or they were in a bit of a crisis. And they got help and they got support. And you push one for the military connection. And a lot of people that answer that number are usually retired service members or military people. So there's that connection. So Public Affairs and myself over the month, we're going to put some signage up and really, really stress that that's available to everybody, especially if they don't. Sometimes people aren't always coming to see someone at the wing, the DPH, and they just want something a little bit more anonymous. So that's the 988 number and also military one source. So things like that.
The 988 number, is that useful for people who maybe they witness a friend? Or is that a number for people or is it mainly victims?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just if you're in a crisis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so maybe you're not feeling suicidal, but you have someone that died by suicide or you witnessed something traumatic and you're just in a crisis. It does not have to be necessarily feeling suicidal. So at any crisis, yes.
So in other words, don't hesitate if you're feeling like you need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the number.
Connect, yes, absolutely.
So we're talking about, obviously, with Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. The biggest things that this is helpful with the holidays coming up as well. I mean, like, I think this is helpful, with just mentally preparing yourself, and having these tools and strategies available and resources available that will help you even just during the holiday season, because we know how that can be. And so,
yeah, and I think we've talked about this over the last, couple of years with COVID. There has been an increase in stress and anxiety for people. A lot of people that come in to see me, it's anxiety, constant worry. And as we're sort of coming out of the pandemic, people are looking for ways to connect or to reconnect. And you're right, the holidays are going to be here before we know it.
Yep.
And so it's really important to address stress and anxiety before it becomes too much. And I always say that to people. Don't wait until something becomes a crisis. If you're having anxiety at work or having relationship issues, maybe you're not feeling depressed or suicidal, but come in and talk to me so we can just talk about strategies
Right.
and support before it gets really bad.
right, you don't want to wait till the storm gets to you. You want either.
Absolutely. And especially with holidays, they can be a fun time, but it's actually very hard for people.
Right.
If people have had a loss and they're grieving, the holidays aren't the same. And sometimes we're around a lot of family during the holidays, and that's not always the healthiest because families can be difficult to deal with, in terms of relationships. So, yeah, I'll definitely be sending out some information around dealing with the holidays too and stress. Oh, and the other thing, since you brought that up, is winter is approaching, right? And a lot of us struggle with seasonal affective disorder. That's a real thing. On the Cape or being in the Northeast, we don't get as much sunlight, and that's really important. So I want to encourage people, too, to really look at, I actually have a therapy light in my office that I put on for like 10 minutes because I don't have a window. And you can also get blood work to see where your vitamin D is because that helps mood. So, yeah, just with the winter approaching, that can be really, really stressful for folks.
I would say also, the holidays have their own set of challenges, but this year in particular, coming out of COVID and with the economy the way it is, fuel prices, having doubts about being able to go see family if they live far away, plane ticket prices, the cost of gifts. There are probably a lot of other things now that are just adding to someone's stress level. Like, geez, I haven't seen family in 3 years, and now I still can't see them because I can't afford the round trip.
All right.
Yeah, think about all these conversations I've had with people, especially those with like larger vehicles that are traveling an hour to work and how expensive that is. So I'm glad you brought that up because Deb, who's our financial person, she kind of keeps us informed and educated around inflation and what's going on with our TSP and all of that. And it's just a reminder to people, too, that, with family readiness and some of the resources we have here, especially around financial concerns, which is one of the risks, right, around suicide prevention, really utilizing Deb and some of the resources and really rethinking about with the holidays, spending on gifts and maybe doing more thoughtful things. Those are some of the things we did last year. We had some blank cards, and we had people fill them out, and just words of support, and gave them to other folks. So really thinking about doing some thoughtful things too. But if somebody is having financial stress, please come see us.
So, Jill, you've tools are important with dealing with depression and other and anxieties and things like that. You've brought with you today a tool to help. What's that about?
Yeah, so on top of connection, which is so important for our mental health, having connections, having hobbies, being connected with other folks. Like I said before, a lot of people come in to see me with anxiety. And I often get a lot of people that kind of look at me and roll their eyes when I start talking about meditation and breathing. And I used to do the same thing. I was like, I'm not doing breathing exercises. That doesn't do anything. But, it is very evidence-based. There's a lot of science around breathing techniques because it does calm your nervous system down. It gets oxygen into the bloodstream. It changes things on a physiological level. So now I'm in the habit, just when I'm driving or I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm in the habit of asking myself, have I taken a deep breath? Am I breathing? And again, that can have a really, really calming effect. I talk about apps all the time, and I use them myself. There's a lot of breathing apps. There's something called tactical breathing. I've talked a lot about COVID Coach that the Department of Defense came out with during COVID, but it has a lot of really short meditations and short, 2 minutes. A lot of different resources on that app. So meditation, listening to things, maybe prayer for somebody, listening to even quiet music, that's been shown to really calm your nervous system down as well, being outside in nature. So really trying to, especially for when we're really busy at work and we kind of leave very stressed out and sort of excited from the busy day. So really thinking about ways that you can calm yourself using these apps. There's a great one called Headspace.
I've used Headspace. That's a wonderful one. I love that.
Yeah,
one.
what does it do?
It just kind of gives you some positive affirmations, some calming music, and there's another one that I also use called I Am, and I Am I'm switching gears real quick, but like Headspace I've used before and I do like it, but I Am is simply it's right now I just got one that says I can let go of my worries and find positivity. And you just, it's random throughout the day. You'll get like 3 or 4
daily affirmations.
Right. And sometimes it just but it really, it doesn't matter the app that someone uses. I think that it really just taking that time for a quick second for yourself and just
a
being
reset.
Like, yeah, just a quick like, oh yeah. And this popped up right as we're talking. Sorry for using my phone, but it's just like it is. I think it's important that people just take that moment just to reset for themselves, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, well I can let go of my worries and find some positivity. All right, cool. Let's, and then you just go down the list. Like, all right, what are your worries? What are your concerns? You could write it down on a notebook if you want, and then
just getting it out of your head.
Yeah, and so I mean, because I think. My personal experience, and I don't speak, I don't speak for everybody, but sometimes for me what helps is just acknowledging it, just addressing the elephant in the room, and
naming
just being
it.
Right, and just being like, okay, why are you upset, and then why are you worried, why are you concerned, and then you address it, and then like, all right, well think about what you're grateful for, and I always try to focus and redirect that mindset. So
what are you grateful for?
Well, Jill, I'm honestly grateful for a happy home. I'm grateful for to be employed during these these difficult times for a lot of people. I'm grateful for the people that I have rooting for me in my corner. So I mean, like I'm grateful that the Raiders might actually have a decent season. But like, I just find little joys in little. There's some people that are listening that may disagree with me, but okay, Tim, calm down. But I'm just saying is like you try to find little joys in little things, and it will carry you. People will be surprised, but it can carry you through the day or through the week, through the month. The next thing you know, you're like, oh, it's the end of 2022. How did I get here? Because I've been, my uncle would always say, count your blessings, not your worries. You know what I mean? So,
and there's a lot of research and literature around gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're suffering or going through something really difficult, finding a little bit of gratitude. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful I have my health. I'm grateful I was able to have a meal today. I mean, we can always find something. It's not to minimize what you're going through, but it is to just notice that there are things to be grateful for.
Right.
And like you said, even writing things down or having those daily affirmations and having apps, a lot of us get stuck in our thinking and in our thoughts. And when we don't have ways to express that, to talk to somebody about it, to write it down, it becomes worse. And that's why it is so important, not necessarily to get into therapy, but to have people that you can talk about what you're going through, to get it out of it. And often some of the stress will lose its power because you are getting it out. So it is really, really important, again, to have those connections.
Absolutely. With all the bad news that we get on our phones, it's nice to just kind of redirect your brain with some positive news, And so get some affirmations or look at this video of this dog or
funny stuff.
Yeah, here's a picture of a salad. I don't know.
Speaking of phones and speaking of free content, that's one of the tools that I like, and I know, Jill, we've talked about it before, with smart speakers in everybody's house. Pretty much everybody has a smart speaker or a smartphone or at least the internet and access to YouTube, which is pretty much free. I've found ambient sound, when I'm trying to relax is so helpful. If I'm having trouble sleeping, on a smart speaker, say, play sounds of the ocean or sounds from the forest or play sounds of a thunderstorm. Or you could just do it the old school way and look it up on YouTube and play that 1.5 hour long video that's there.
Some of them are 8 hours.
I've had those.
Night.
And if you're an Uber geek like me, you can look up, Star Trek and sounds, the sounds of the ship, like for 12 hours.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
12-hour video of the Enterprise D.
All right, well, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Just the little beeps and bips and whoops and the hum of the engines. I'm like, there's something out there for everyone. Yeah. And it's free. And it can really make a difference, especially if you're trying to get some rest, whether it's a nap or a full-blown sleep that you're trying to do.
And again, there's a lot of literature and research around music and sound and like the hertz levels and things that are calming. And there's everything from, water to ambient sounds, just a variety of things. I was talking to Tim earlier about a book I just read called Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins, and he also talks about listening to certain music that might be really loud and energetic, like music you might listen to when you're running, but what that does to your energy level, and then the opposite, listening to classical music or meditation music, how that will really lower our energy, and it really does have a calming effect on our bodies and our brains.
Well, I'll say also, just to kind of jump off from there, one bit of advice. I know there are probably a lot of people like myself who tend to fall asleep to television, movies, TV shows, whatever, and you wake up at 2 a.m. and it's an infomercial or something. That's not helpful, I found.
That's so bad for you.
Because it's the opposite of what I find helpful with the ambient noise. There's nothing you have to think about. With television, if you're falling asleep to television, you may hear somebody say something like, "Oh, what are they talking about?
Right.
It gets your attention. And
What episode is this?
It brings you back a little bit.
Stimulation.
Yeah, or a movie that you love that you've seen a million times, but that your favorite scene comes up and it's like, it gets your brain going when your brain should be shutting down for the night. It wakes you back up, and it's not helpful. You wake up feeling more tired than when you went to sleep. That's why I like the ambient sounds, because there's nothing for your brain to focus on.
Right.
Except calming.
And even other than the ambient sound, there are even some meditations where they're guided and you're focusing on different parts of your body, and that's really calming too. But I'm glad you mentioned the TV, because a lot of people that come in and see me are struggling with sleep. And so we always look at sleep hygiene and sleep habits, but falling asleep on the couch, and a lot of people like to do that because they're kind of avoiding getting in bed, or if you're having a lot of stress, you know you're going to get in bed and you're going to have all these loops in your brain about what I have to do tomorrow and what happened today. So you fall asleep to the TV, and it's avoidance, right?
Yeah.
But it
Well,
works.
the longer it
but
takes
then
you to fall asleep in the evening means in your mind, whether it makes any sense or not, that's longer than, it's going to take longer for me to have to deal with whatever happens tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
I'm dragging my feet,
Yeah, so have a plan. If you do fall asleep to the TV, start planning what your sleep is going to look like, or what your like a schedule. So I'm going to try to get in bed at this time. I'm going to read for a little bit. I'm going to listen to calming music, but really trying to do that because sleep is so vital. It's one of the first questions that I ask people when they come in and see me, or if you go in and see a therapist, like, what is your sleep like? Because it impacts anxiety, mental health, depression. We have to have good, solid sleep, the best that we can.
Absolutely. And I'm sitting here, I'm listening to both of y'all, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this. I'm Bob's Burgers or old Simpsons episodes every night, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, that's why I got real quiet. I was like, oh, that's me. But, and I have found that when I switch it up, and I travel a lot sometimes, and I try to just turn the TV off and just fall asleep to just white noise, or I'll open up the window and just listen to the crickets, and I'm out like a light.
White noise is good. Yeah, the other night I started watching a documentary, and it ended up having some violence and a lot of conflict in it. I got like maybe 3 episodes in, but I quickly realized I cannot watch stuff like that at night that's violent or that's stimulating, or just any kind of really TV or media. So, just notice those things, like do things before you go to bed that are calming and not stimulating.
Always have a palate cleanse or something like that. Yeah. If you watch a crazy action or horror movie or something or a true crime documentary, I have to, go outside, touch grass or something. Just something.
Ground yourself.
Cause
the other thing that I try to do, if I'm, having some stress or I'm struggling with in a particular area of my life, kind of going back to those daily affirmations, and what we watch and what we listen to, I do seek out positive teachers, speakers, podcasts, meditation teachers, books. I find that is also very uplifting and can help with your mood. And I do recommend that for a lot of people. I recommend certain books because they can also be really validating, like, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way or that's struggling with this. And they can also be inspiring. There is hope. It can get better. So all of this to also say that, a lot of people are hesitant about getting into therapy and what they think that looks like. And there's so many different things you can do to take care of yourself and your mental health. It doesn't have to be therapy. But there are a lot of different types of therapists and therapies, and, even some that are just very quick, solution-focused therapies. There's even, something called like EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization that's great for PTSD, and it's kind of a quick modality to help to help you kind of move out of some of your trauma or depression. So please call me if you want to know what type of therapist you need to see. I always tell people if you're having relationship or marriage issues, that it's important to see a licensed marriage and family therapist, because they're trained in family relationship systems, things like that. So I really want to encourage people, especially this month and with the season changing, to just get support. We all need it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with asking for it, you know. So I will reiterate that over and over again. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. We've all needed help at some point, so don't be afraid to do it.
Yep, always.
So
Fantastic. So do you have any other words of wisdom? Anything you want to get out to the members of the wing? You want to make sure
I'd like
they're
to
aware?
also ask people that, if you have any ideas for me for suicide prevention, for reducing stigma, mental health resources, we have a lot of different buildings here, and I don't always get to those places very often, or I get really busy, but it is important for me to have that face-to-face contact. So if anybody has any suggestions on how we can bring more resources to you. One of the other things I meant to mention that we're doing is the wellness team with the SART, Family Readiness, Financial, the first shirt, and the chief. We're going to start doing walkabouts every 2 weeks, like the second and last Friday. So as a team. So we're also going to be going to visit different groups and units and squadrons and bringing some resources and just reminding people that we're here. So please call me. Again, even if you don't want to talk to the DPH, I will find you resources in your community and find you the support that you need.
Or at least, drop on by the Zen Den and get a coffee or a tea and hang out for a few minutes.
I love it when people stop by. Yeah, please come see our Zen Den. It looks like a huge, relaxing living room.
it's nice.
Yeah, bring your lunch down. I always invite people to come and have lunch with us, just to sit and chat. It's just a really zen space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just need to relax. If you need a moment, that's all it takes. It's just a moment.
Bring your pumpkin spice coffee and your apple cider donuts with you.
Please.
And some avocado toast. That's all.
That's what crossed the line.
That's the West Coast in me. All right, you leave me alone.
All right. Well, thank you for coming by, Jill, and we'll be talking soon.
You're welcome, and I'm honored to do what I do, and I hope to hear from people. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Before we go, here's a bit of a preview of our other podcast, Chevrons. From junior enlisted to senior leaders and those in between, we interview notable individuals to address everyday challenges and hurdles the enlisted force faces. In this episode, Master Sgt. Keith Robbins, the Plans and Programs Non-Commissioned Officer in Charge at the 102nd Communications Flight, and Tech Sergeant Jason Whittaker, 102nd Intelligence Wing Public Affairs, talk about stoicism and some takeaways for alternative points of view and good practices for personal and professional development.
In terms of stoicism, like I said, wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Wisdom as in, information, just being smart.
All right.
Taking information, formulating your own ideals on that, and then sticking by them. Justice or honesty, justice works, hand in hand with honesty, being an honest person, doing the right thing even when no one's looking, like integrity. Courage, being brave to take on the bigger jobs.
Even though
brave.
they say don't volunteer for anything,
right?
But
Be courageous.
Yes, exactly.
They Dr. Brenny Brown says the same thing: is dare to lead. You need to make that decision to lead. It's funny. I'm a big Office fan.
Yeah.
So there's that scene where Ryan Howard, he's like, I really just want to be led, but when I'm in the mood to be led,
Yeah.
and that's really what the generation is now. Is they need to be in the right mindset, and you have to, fill their bucket. so that they're ready to take that instruction and learn how to lead, or to volunteer.
Right.
or
Well,
to-
yeah, because sometimes you just don't even know how to lead. You're just like, oh, I guess.
Yeah, you can't just tell someone like, this is your program now.
Right.
You need to instruct them. You need, especially in the Guard, we have to, on the drill weekends, we have to take that hat off, because I work full time. I'm out here full time. Yeah. So, but on the drill weekends, it's like, it's not a continuation of my normal week. It's drill weekend. It's time to take off that hat and put on the trainer hat.
Yep. And
instruct and tell people what you've been up to this week and how you've navigated these things that exist. I'm sure that it's not just Planet Otis that these things exist. So there's value in teaching others. Good organizations know what they're proficient at, but to be a great organization, everyone must understand and embrace why we do what we do. So you have to teach. You have to tell them the why. And that's what it really comes down to for me.
Thanks for listening to the Seagull. Enjoy this last bit of summer. See you back here for the October RSD. Remember, Family Day is this Sunday. Make sure to bring your family to enjoy some much-deserved downtime. There will be plenty of activities for kids and adults alike. For more news from the 102nd Intelligence Wing, visit our website at www.102iw.ang.af.mil/links or search for 102IW on any major social media platform.